Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM, great to welcome back to the radio the Mayor of the Horowhenua, Bernie Wanden. Good morning. How are you, Bernie?
Good morning, John, and to all your listeners.
Lovely to talk to you. I see you've had yet another minister. You've been playing host to Phil Twyford. That could have been an interesting discussion.
Well, actually, he played host to us, which was very nice to have a trip down to Wellington and go through the lovely Kapiti Coast as well, of course. But we managed to get 45 minutes of the minister's time to tell him a little bit about the story of the Horowhenua, how we're growing, and hopefully trying to connect some of those government departments that he's involved with to let them know that we needed that connectedness and that there was an overall story to tell rather than us trying to initiate communication with individual agencies and then not being hooked up. So he's the Minister of Transport, he's the Minister of Housing, and he's also the Minister of Economic Development. So those government departments play a big part in our future, obviously, and we see part of our problem is trying to make sure that all those government agencies are aware of what is actually happening in the Horowhenua and how the challenge of growth is in front of us.
Now, that's quite an interesting trifecta of portfolios. The housing also includes urban development, I believe, and
Yes.
transport and economic development. It seems to make sense that they're all together there. Transport really is the binder, isn't it? You, particularly for a place such as the Horowhenua and in the hinterland, close to major ports, etc., but you do need good transport connections.
We do. Look, the roads obviously are making a difference in that space, and that's reflected in the fact that we've been invited to be part of the Wellington Growth Framework Strategy, and which would never have been considered probably even up to 2 or 3 years ago. But I think the Wellington region sees the potential of Horowhenua probably solving or the ability to solve some of the issues that they have in Wellington and the heart around housing, around transport issues and things like that. And the reality is that when the road is finished, and it will only be 50 minutes into the centre of Wellington. So we are basically turning ourselves into a suburb of the capital city. With easy access, a 4-lane highway pretty much all the way up here. So yeah, there's definitely some advantages in having that sort of connection there, but also the potential then, obviously, our connection to the east, west, and the centre of the island. For transport especially, but for freight haulage. All those sorts of connections as well. We're still cheap to live here, so we are quite attractive for a lot of people.
No doubt about that, and I find it strangely comforting that you're engaging in the Wellington conversation as well. And there were the days, Bernie, when there was this line on the map and never the twain would meet, and it's great to see we're getting over that. We're beginning to grow up a bit. That's
right. We are finally treating and to be honest, central government have played their part in this by telling us that, they don't necessarily like dealing individually with 67 territorial authorities. They would much rather talk to us as a region or as a collective that, will have much more influence in terms of getting things done if we are talking across boundaries rather than within our boundaries. And we're already having conversations with Guru and at Kapiti as well. So we really accept the fact that we have got this sort of connection, and that boundaries or lines on boundaries, maps should be taken away.
Dead right. Great to see that. So cooperation with Kapiti and Manawatu as well, I should imagine.
Very much so, yeah. Look, we are part of the Manawatu Wanganui regional area, so we do have close connections to that, and very like-minded sort of TAs in that space, like Rangitikei and Manawatu, even Taurua and Ruapehu, we're all sort of medium to small territorial authorities, so we have a lot in common.
Dead right. Now, the urban development side of things interests me because while things have been going gangbusters in the Horowhenua, I imagine there must be some strains to go with that growth, and you have got a limited ratepayer pool. And did you have discussions along those lines with the Minister?
No, we didn't, because the government probably think that money is cheap at the moment, and all we have to do is borrow more. But that only, puts some onus on our future ratepayers to pay a lot of that back. So there's got to be the right balance of being able to afford it now and also, prepare for the future and make the long-term ratepayers pay for it. So it is a challenge, and we are not used to this challenge. As you well know, the Horowhenua stagnated for a number of years. So. And that's why our long-term plan for starting next year is a big challenge for us.
Must be. Yes, we're almost into the new financial year. I imagine you've been thinking about numbers, and there's been lots of spreadsheets flying around the place, and it's getting real. This new financial year, I imagine a challenging one as well.
For sure. Look, the long-term plan, while it is 20 years for us, so it'll be 2021 to 2041, and things change very quickly. So, we do have to set our priorities in the direction and the vision that this council wants to give to the district, and so this is our opportunity to make sure we do that. At the moment, we're more concentrating on those priorities, and we rather than the dollars, if you like, to make sure that management understand where where elected members want to take the district, and because the reality is too that in 5 years or 10 years, most of us won't be here. So it's important, really important sort of strategy that we need to make sure that we think fully about and make sure we're aware of all those issues that are going to impact us. A lot of unknowns, of course, and as we've seen what happens this year, things can change pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Have you got any concerns talking about the borrowing and therefore the spreading of the burden over various generations? There is a temptation to get into the cheap money at the moment, but it may not always be cheap and therefore become a more unreasonable burden for future generations.
The economists are telling us that they don't see interest rates changing for a long, long time. They do not believe that that will happen like most of our generation are used to. We've lived through some very high interest rates, but now that they've got them down to where they are, they do not believe that they will ever return to anything like they were. And that's the, a prediction that I do have some faith in terms of that. Debt is not necessarily a bad thing. It's what you use that debt for is the question you have to ask yourself. In terms of, sort of a good or bad debt.
Sure. You want it to do something, don't you? You want it to be productive debt.
Exactly. Yep. It should be to build new infrastructure rather than just to pay for the groceries.
Yes, precisely.
Yes, yeah.
Indeed. Well, looking forward to that. I guess those discussions are well afoot, and no doubt we'll hear about developments over the forthcoming months. Great to catch up once again. Thank you for your time, Bernie Wanden, Mayor of the Horowhenua.
Thanks, John.
106.3 Beach FM.